I want to remind everybody about Buckeye State Credit Union. If you haven't heard of them yet, meet your new favorite financial partner. Buckeye State Credit Union is a local institution offering everything from checking accounts, home equity lines of credit, and auto loans with some of the lowest rates in Northeast Ohio. The Cleveland branch is in Shaker Heights, which is one of 5 locations across the state, making it easy to find one near you. Can't get to a branch? Not a problem at all. They make banking super simple through digital banking. And what sets them apart? They make banking personal and convenient. At Buckeye, their focus is you. Their core values: connect, simply, adapt, guide everything they do. They bring people together, cut through the clutter, and are innovative. To learn more, visit buckeyecu.org. Buckeye State Credit Union. Your money simplified.
All right, we had a couple of topics left. One of them was the creation of this new offensive line award in the NFL. The question was, could Joe Thomas have won it every year in his career if it existed, and could Joe Bitonio win it this coming season? For me, no. He's not. Does anybody think Joe Bitonio is the best offensive lineman in football right now?
No.
Not even close.
Okay.
He was the best offensive lineman on the Browns.
No. So, and my answer to would Thomas have won it every year, I think he would have won it close to half the years he was in the league, maybe even more, but probably not every year because of voter fatigue.
We could dive into that next week.
We can do it next week.
He played with a lot of nice. He played in with a nice.
There were other really good offensive linemen at the time. And do you guys both agree with me? There's voter fatigue. When somebody wins something over and over and over again, it's so easy to say, yeah, no, not this year. We've seen that with Patrick Mahomes.
LeBron won.
LeBron.
Jokic. You end up right. You end up with like Kobe. He got 1 MVP. You're like, how?
Yeah, that still amazes me. All right, so the other topic that we had left that we'll dive into is, I found this fascinating. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about it. College football, for the playoffs this year, which will be year 2 of the 12-team format, they're going to give the top 4 seeds automatic byes. But outside of that, it's going to be a seeded tournament where they assign seeds 1 through 12. The first 4 seeds will get byes and home games. What do you guys make of that? Because that's not how they did it last year.
They did it last year based on who won their
conference tournament.
Correct,
right?
which was kind of wonky.
Yeah.
Because is the second place team in the SEC or Big Ten
really
not as good as
Boise State?
As we found out. Do you guys like this move? Do you think it's a good move?
Hell yeah. You go first.
Yeah, no, it's like, I mean, you look at what happened last year. You take a look at SMU, and they, SMU played, Indiana, SMU, who else was in the tournament? People talked about Boise State. They didn't fare well. They just didn't.
No.
It was a nice look. I like the fact that, I went to a MAC school. And I like to see some of those matchups and the smaller guys get an opportunity. But if you're a smaller team, you should have to have a lower seed and you should have to go on the road. That is what it is because you did play a lesser schedule. So for me, I think it's right. It's the way it should be. And my thing is, are you what committee is it? Is it going to be the same committee? And are you going to have?
I think that rotates.
Are you going to have
the people on the committee rotate every year? Yeah.
Are you going to have 3 Big Ten teams or 3 SEC teams from year to year in the top 3? Because look, if you go into a situation where, say, one of the teams like Penn State or Michigan, we know this, or Oregon, you lose 1 game, right?
And it's to the other team in the Big Ten that's going.
So that means you're not a conference champion, right?
Yes.
And so now you can see 2 or 3 of these teams in SEC be in the top 4. And they got great squads, but are people going to get tired of that too?
No.
Yeah. That is the question, though.
I mean,
you wouldn't? Because somebody's going to complain.
That's the question. People are going to complain about everything.
No matter how you do it, you're right. People are going to not say it's not right.
But last year, when they awarded the highest conference champions the byes, you got to remember, was Arizona State one of the top 4 teams in the country last year?
No.
Was Boise State one of the top 4 teams in the country last year? No.
But if you give these conferences automatic top 4 seeds,
then they're going to get these byes.
And you get bad matchups because of it.
Exactly. And I think this is going to make the overall playoff structure better, where we're not having Ohio State, Oregon in Oregon's first game, but in the first, what's the word I'm looking for? The quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Oregon's first game, Ohio State, when you can make the case those are the 2 best teams in college football last year. And you're going to get better seeded matchups later in the tournament, which leads to better semifinal games.
Yes.
Better quarterfinal games, and eventually, hopefully, the true national champion.
Yeah, I agree with
Because
that.
my biggest issue last year is with how it was seeded. that Oregon-Ohio State game may have been really for the national championship. And I
It
know
felt like it was. But you might still get that in another year.
And you may get it, and there's no way to get it perfectly seeded, but I think now with the just top 4 seeds getting byes and everyone else being seeded properly, 1 through 12,
Yeah.
we're going to get the most chances possible to see the 2 best teams play for it all.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this is the best way to do it. Your point is a very good one because your point is exactly what's going to become a reality. There might be years in a row where no one outside the Big Ten or the SEC, because let's face it, that's what college football has become.
Yep.
You might get a 5-year stretch where all of the top 4 seeds were from those 2 conferences.
Oh, I think the only team I think is capable of doing
Notre
something
Dame.
is maybe Clemson.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
But look, I mean, Notre Dame plays a schedule where they got the armed forces every year.
Sure.
They don't really play Michigan anymore. They play USC.
Who stinks.
Notre Dame has played some big games over the last decade, and they've flamed out in most of them.
So they got to be really good. They better start the season at number 5 and up, and then they'll be able to
run
get
the
it.
table,
and run the table,
and then they can maybe sneak into that top 4. But you know this because you follow the Big Ten. There is Big Ten and SEC fatigue everywhere west of the Mississippi. Although now with USC, UCLA, and Oregon and Washington being part of the Big Ten, we span the globe and we span the entire United States of America now with our team. You got Rutgers is on the far East Coast, and Oregon and USC and UCLA. Washington all the way out on the West Coast and everything in between.
SEC now has Texas,
Yeah.
Oklahoma, all the Florida.
They took what was profitable from the Big 12.
Yeah, they're going to split that top 4 up. They're going to get the buys.
I feel like where we're going, and I don't know how long it's going to take us to get there, but I think ultimately where we're going is there's going to be 2 divisions. If you want to call them leagues, you can call them leagues.
2 super
but
leagues.
they're going to be the SEC and the Big Ten. And all of the teams that have an opportunity to compete for a national championship that aren't currently in there will have to be gobbled up by either one of the leagues, conferences, whatever you want to call them down the road. Clemson would be one of them. Maybe Miami.
Really
I don't
quick,
know. Notre Dame.
Do they have the ability to take a team that didn't win a championship over a conference winner?
Yeah.
So, say for instance, Michigan has 2 losses.
Over a conference winner.
Over somebody from
No. I think
if
the
you
four
win the conference, you're
winners,
guaranteed to be
Okay.
in.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
that's
Just
what
you're
I'm
not
That's
guaranteed a
true.
home spot anymore.
All right, cool.
But I do think, and then the second part of that question is, which we don't have time for, the second part of that question was, how will it affect Ohio State? Well, in a year like last year where Ohio State was definitively the best team, and they had such an incredible gauntlet to get there and win it, it won't.
Yeah.
I think we're ultimately closer to getting definitively the best team, and I think last year we got definitively the best team.